Vacation meeting of March 25th, 25 to order. And we have awesome special guests this evening. The Enfield High School choir students are going to do the national anthem for us. And then we'll have the pledge with Ms. Lang.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So we do the pledge.
Yep. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So fire evacuation announcement. In the unlikely event of a fire, you can exit out the back doors of the chambers to the parking lot or the side doors of the chambers here. Take a left down the stairway and out to the parking lot. Kathy, could I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Here.
Mrs. Pickett,
Here.
Mr. Ryder,
Here.
Mrs. Acree,
Here.
Dr. Kalnin,
Here.
Mrs. Cushman,
Here.
Mr. Gauss,
Here.
Mr. Kober,
Here.
Chairwoman Riley.
Here. Okay, board guests. Enfield Public Schools Music Program, Mark Doobie. Come on up.
Good evening. Thank you so much for,
Red lights on?
I think so.
I think so.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Mark Doobie. I'm the Director of Arts for Enfield Public Schools. This is Justin Rodson. He's educator at JFK Middle School in our music department. And I really thought it was important that we had teacher representation here tonight. We have a number of our teachers that are here. And the reason why that's important, this is an internally led department. These are some of the hardest working and most knowledgeable and committed educators that we have in town. And I think tonight is a great opportunity to celebrate their hard work that they provide to the students in Enfield. And you just saw a product of that hard work and that passion and that commitment in the students here singing tonight. So I brought for you a highlight reel, and I'm going to try to move through it as quickly as possible. There's a lot of exciting things that have taken place already this year and more to come. And then at the conclusion of the slideshow, I'd be happy to take your comments or questions that you might have for us. Justin has been asked to kind of jump in along the way and provide a little bit of detail. And just one note that this young man right here was my student many years ago along his journey, and I was a student of Enfield Public Schools. And I think you find a lot of our staff members keep coming back. And the reason why we come back is because we love this place. And I know you do too. And so it's great that we're here on paying our respects to the board this month, but it's also Music in Our Schools month too. So let's celebrate together and let's look at some real awesome highlights that we've been able to accomplish this year, and maybe some more things that we could think about that we could pull off if we put our heads together and we all come to an agreement on how we can get there. All right, so let's take us through the slideshow here. So our first slide is devoted to our K-5 music program, which is really wonderful. If you ever go by these K-5 classrooms while they're teaching music, once a week, 45 minutes is what the kids have now. They're up out of their seats, they're moving, they're singing, they're learning rhythms, they're learning foundations, and they're just enjoying music, and they're working together. The building blocks of what they're gonna do in 6 to 12 happen magically at that K to 5 level. So our educators do a great job. As you can see in the screen, lots of movement, lots of instruments, lots of singing. It's really just wonderful stuff. We no longer have instrumental lessons or choir in the 3 to 5 level. We all are aware of that. I want to make that, very clear. That's something that we feel deeply and passionately that we need to find a way to get there. We know it's not going to happen overnight or in 1 year. I'm working very carefully with the administration, with the staff, with you folks, with the town council, with everybody involved to get creative, but to bring it back. And the reason for that is we want kids to have an instrument in their hand as early as possible. Think about a hockey player. They don't start playing when they're 13 or 14. They start playing when they're 5. And they stick with it and they develop. And we increase their ceiling of capability the earlier that we can start. Now, since we don't have that, we've gotten creative. As you can see on the screen here, these are a number of our assemblies that we've had where the kids are up out of their seat, they're singing, they're doing choreography. We had a little circus at Hazardville Memorial. We had Veterans Day assemblies that I saw many of you folks at, paying your tributes and respects. And the kids sang beautifully. The students just really enjoyed it. And we're still doing instruments and we're still singing in the K-5s. But I think we can do one better than that. As a result of the changes that we've had in our 3-5 program, we have sort of redeveloped our 6 through 8 program to accommodate any student without any prior experience to show up in 6th grade starting in the fall and start playing an instrument. They can be in an ensemble class, they'll have pull-out lessons once a week, and they'll have that class for the entire school year. So my staff and I have worked together. We've toured the elementary schools, kind of drubbing up interest and showing what the students can one day do. And so we're ready for them. We want families that are listening to this tonight, and we're going to continue to promote it. Put your kid in instrumental music when they arrive at JFK. On April 22nd, we have an open house to 5th grade families and students to visit JFK and to meet with staff. I will be there along with Jerry's Music, Music and Arts, and we'll be there to give you the information that you need to get an instrument in your hand and enroll in music when you arrive first day of school at JFK. And Mr. Rodson and the rest of the JFK staff will take it from there. Those kids will play music a year later. We will figure it out. This year, another intervention where the staff and I kind of put our heads together, and I really, ultimately, I just listened. They had the ideas, they had the passion, they had the dreams. I listened, and I went to work. And we put in inter-school music starting in December all the way through last Thursday. Once a week, the kids came from 4:15 to 5:15 and got music lessons, played an ensemble, had mentors from many of our 6 through 12 ensembles, played music, and then had a concert on March 15th, which some of you came to or reached out and said, hey, good luck. That's great stuff. Go get them. And so that was just an amazing experience. Justin was a massive part of that, as Eric Spoldy, Kim Jakes, the whole JFK staff. Really supportive, even behind the scenes, even if they didn't come Thursday night to help buy the food. Mr. Powers here tonight. Everybody really believes in making sure that if we get kids going in 5th grade and 6th grade, then our ensembles in 7th, 8th, and 9th through 12 will continue to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Mr. Doobie mentioned, the passion is there from our elementary school students. And we obviously going into this school year, we knew that we were not going to have instrumentalists coming up for the following school year, from who's coming up through 5th grade now. So we got our heads together and said, how can we make this happen? And we did the inter-school program, and it worked out fantastically. And a huge shout out to all the families in Enfield who supported bringing their sons, their daughters over to JFK on those Thursdays to make it work. Between myself, my colleagues, Ms. Jakes, Ms. Gagnon, Mr. Spoldy, we made it work. Right, everybody at JFK, we worked through it. The elementary teachers helped out. And this is going to go all the way through the high school, which is that showcase we had a week and a half ago. The passion is there. We saw a huge turnout of students coming from the elementary schools to JFK after school on a Thursday. That's outside of school hours, and the turnout was fantastic. The family supported it. If we can get that back into the school day, I think that we would have such a huge it would pay huge dividends, because obviously the passion is there, and we want to make sure that we don't have to put families and students in a situation where they have to choose. After school, there's so many options, right? Between sports, dance, there's so many things we have to offer in Enfield. So getting that back into the school day is something we're really passionate about, and we're doing everything we can in the meantime to keep students playing.
So I'd like to just share a little bit about what we have in the schools right now. I'll just kind of take you through these slides quickly. You don't just have to be an instrumentalist. You don't have to be in an ensemble. There's great general music courses available in our course selections guide. At the high school, we have piano, guitar, foundations of music, which is a theory class, music tech, theater arts, and our amazing United Sound program. This is where all kids come together, make music. We have a fall and a spring semester. If you've ever seen these kids in action, it's amazing. They played at the winter concert. They played at the pep rally. It's bonkos. It's amazing. It's just one of the happiest things that you'll ever get to see. It happens every 4A day. Really just tremendous. And then here are our ensembles options that we have. You saw one of them. This was many of our members of our honors choir that sang for you tonight. We have jazz. We have concert marching band, full year courses. And then what we did is we have orchestra, winds, and percussion, this has been a long-standing option, but this is just another way that a kid can play an instrument during their school day and not be in the marching band or concert band. So we're trying to, because sometimes it doesn't fit in a kid's schedule, or maybe they can't do the fall schedule. So there's a lot of ways to get an instrument and let the kids continue to play on. I made a great slide featuring Mark Rapucci, our jazz director, who's done so much for music in this town over the past 25 years. It's unbelievable, and maintains that. And the kids play jazz during the school day, like Bravo, Enfield. Many, many schools don't have jazz during the school day. We do. A wonderful commitment to the community through our parades, our torchlight and carol sing. These were all photos from this year, singing the national anthem, the kids getting dressed up for the holidays, playing at the Veterans Day parade, and upcoming at the Memorial Day parade as well. Again, more images from those events. Our great color guard was there, looking great, just putting on a great show, just working hard, coming after school. Really, that's a club model, and those kids really do work hard and put the time in to represent the town. This year we said goodbye to our band director, Mrs. Shell, who's now at JFK as an administrator. But I was very proud of the band members that wanted to pay tribute to her at halftime of the last game of the football season. And they took the field one last time together with their band director. So we wish her well. And a lot of the strength and the prowess of the program is a testament to her. These are great pictures from our tour. We had our own Eras tour this year. And we took the JFK and the EHS ensembles to all of the K-5s, and that was the most wonderful experience of my 26-year career in Enfield. Seeing our kids and our staff get in front of those little ones and just getting them excited, and the staff of the schools and the administration just welcoming us in and really enjoyed the music. And the Hazardville Memorial kids, I know the admin is here tonight, they hand wrote a thank you note to the high school kids and drew pictures and said, thank you for coming, and I want to be in the color guard, and I want to play the tuba, and all those kind of things. That was exactly what we were after. Just get people excited. More great pictures there of that tour. We also got to go to the Senior Center with the JFK ensembles. We're heading there again in April with the Honors Choir for a 45-minute performance. We're really looking forward to engaging them. So kudos to Taylor Marino, who runs a lot of their events there. We've been able to connect several times, and we want to make that a tradition. We had great winter concerts, well attended at both schools. Tremendous engagement by the directors to the audience, their students demonstrating their skill. We were very proud of the winter concerts this year. And then, of course, our Music Fest. And I want to draw your attention to the bottom right-hand corner. That was a picture of the audience. And if you were there, you just knew how packed it was. And I know that we featured all of our ensembles and their families and friends came, but to see Enfield High, that's a big room. To see it packed with people. Really excited to be there, packed with board members, packed with council members who came up to me on the side and said, that was great. We'll do what we can. Let's get those instruments going. We support you. Now let's do it. I love that. I love to be approached. I love that positivity. But let's do it in this room. Let's do it at those council meetings, and let's make sure that we keep music strong in the yearbooks to come. Go look at the yearbooks. You ever go on archive.org where all the Enfield and the Fermi yearbooks are? I do. You can call me a nerd. I look at those things, and you know what I'm doing? I'm reliving my days when I was in those yearbooks as a ball player, when these guys were in those yearbooks doing what they do in the band and marching in parades and having these strong ensembles. That can never go away in this community. Another wonderful thing that we did, a little recruitment and retention project that we had. We took the Enfield High Orchestra and we sent them to JFK for a couple of hours, and they did a combined piece. The JFK kids were able to kind of see the upper level kids and do a little collaborative effort. And then we took our 8th grade band and we brought them up to the high school. And they did a little band day. We had Chef O and the culinary arts kids make them a little bit of lunch. They had a day in the life of an EHS band kid, and we're really hoping that we want to retain those 8th grade kids. So it's not just about getting new kids in the pipeline, but it's about keeping the kids that we have and making them as best as possible. This was wonderful. I'm sure all the board knows about this. I reached out to you all and the council, and it was in the news around, it was on NBC 30 and all sorts of things. These wonderful kids in our marching band were selected for the New England Honor Band, something that Mrs. Shell sort of got set up for these kids. These kids worked hard. They auditioned. They were selected. They went through a rigorous process. They had to raise money, went all the way to Pasadena, and were in the Tournament of Roses parade, which was just tremendous. This is a screen of our high school students who participated in CMEAs, which is an audition process where their instrumental skills are adjudicated in front of a very rigorous panel. I'm proud of all the kids that at least auditioned. Not everybody selected. The kids that you see on the screen, many of which were selected to participate in the Eastern Region Festival. Many of the kids that are in the honors choir were also selected. And then these are our middle schoolers that went just late last week. I appreciate the music staff for accompanying them. A lot of hours, extra rehearsal, giving feedback to these kids on the side, making sure that they're prepared for these massive statewide events that are really, you know, let me tell you something, that will sharpen you. When you go before those panels and you play before an audience, that's how you become what you become. Just like when you all get up here and speak, it challenges you. It makes you at your best. And that's what we want. We want to deliver those experiences for these kids. Now, you just saw these 4 ladies in our honors choir, but all 4 of them were selected. Alabama Mattoon, Sadie Magala, and Caitlin Kamei and Emily Grenier are all state members of the CMEAs. They are going on Thursday. I'll be bringing them there. And on Friday, Mark Rapucci and Amanda Artuman will also be there to bring the girls there. They'll be there Thursday, Friday, and then a big performance at Wethersfield High on Saturday. So we wish them well. What an accomplishment. We had a couple of CAS our award winners this year, Ishan Patel for music and Kyrie Post for EHS Arts. And our arts festival's coming up the 25th and 26th of April, so we'll be promoting that here coming up soon. We had 6 elementary students recognized by CAS as well for music and arts, and our staff brought them there for a beautiful banquet in January, so we thank our staff and these students for being recognized, for being great classmates, for being great teammates, and having musical and artistic skill that was exceptional. We have a Tri-M Honors Music Society at Enfield High, so special thanks to Mark Rapucci for getting that off the ground, and Amanda Tillman, Andrew Armstrong, our new band director, and Ashley Shell have a lot to do with the Music Honor Society. And those students, they have to do community service hours. It's a lot like NHS, but for music, and it's really a wonderful thing that we have going. And if you look at the picture, look at how many students have been selected to be in that. It's really great. We have a lot of extracurricular musical acts, too, between chamber orchestra, color guard, percussion ensemble, and you're going to see some of them coming up at Lamplighters here very soon. They're going to have their musical, and we have a pit orchestra playing live music during the musical, which is really remarkable. It's the pinnacle of show business, and you will see it both at EHS and JFK coming up in the next couple of months. Here's the Lamplighters. This was from the fall production, their play. Kids did a great job. There's over 80 kids in this club. It's our most well-attended club at Enfield High. Behind the scenes, on the wings, on the stage. And we thank the Reeses for directing this great club for over 20 years now. They're remarkable, and we hope to see you on April 4th and 5th for their musical coming up. JFK, it's like, honestly, Broadway Junior. Kim Jakes and her staff and these kids and many of the JFK teachers are involved. They're in the hallways and the wings, building the set, making the costumes, getting everything situated for months at a time for really literally 3 or 4 shows. We're bringing the 5th grade over on a school day for a little in-school field trip. They'll get to see the musical. They'll get to be in the space. We love that we can do that with our friends at the 3-5s. One of the last things I want to share for families and for the board, we have a beautiful summer music program coming up starting June 23rd. We have instrumental music, and we'll have a theater arts camp. Information is on the screen. We'll be pushing all of that out more through Power School and Parent Square, excuse me. And so there's options for music and theater arts, just one option. It's 3 hours a day, 4 days a week from June 23rd all the way until July 17th. And then there's a beautiful musical and a concert. It's really awesome what they do in 4 weeks' time. This gentleman right here is one of our lead instructors, and they do an awesome job. So lastly, I just want to say thank you to the board. The board works very hard. We appreciate your support. I've sat with many of you this year, and so I appreciate you supporting me and my departments. And I mostly want to say thank you to the music teachers. The music teachers is where the rubber meets the road. The teachers make the school system tick. They make it work. They make it happen. And so we are internally led. What they say and what they want to do and what their hopes and dreams and ideas are, it's my job to listen and my job to work for them. And I think that goes for all of us. Why? Because it's for the kids. And lastly, there's a lot of names on this board. I'm not going to be able to read them all out loud, but the upper administrators, the administrative council, and the admin at JFK, and a lot of you folks, and a lot of the community members, and the buildings and grounds, and all those folks, we wouldn't be able to do any music without that. I have learned there's more to music than anybody could even imagine this year. Just promise me when I tell you that. And I am so glad that I get to be a part of that. So I thank my colleagues, I thank the board, and I thank you for inviting us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you have any questions or comments,
Yes,
we'll
I'm sure
take
we're
them.
going to have a lot, I bet.
It's fine.
All right, Mr. Ryder.
So, Mr. Doobie, I know that you were very generous in sharing the credit with your department, your teachers, but I wanted to thank you. The sports coach enthusiasm that you bring to music, I think is necessary because it kind of helps translate that to sports parents that aren't music parents.
Yes, sir.
But the enthusiasm that you bring to this and the passion is infectious. I want to thank you for taking advantage of the time that you had here tonight, and I hope that you'll be back here soon to give us another update on our great music department. I just wanted to say thank you to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Ryder.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Doobie, thank you. I knew when you stepped into this role that you were taking on so much, and the amount of information you were able to share and learn in such a short amount of time. Your enthusiasm is unmatched, and how far you've come with the music portion of all this. I was tickled when you were able to take that percussion kit, and I said to Colin, Mr. Doobie's going to take that percussion kit, and he said, "Why is he taking it?" And I said, he's actually, he's the department chair for music. And he goes, "What?" I said, "Yeah." So we had a little chuckle about that. But no, your enthusiasm, like Scott, he said it more perfect than I could say it. So I appreciate your enthusiasm, and your knowledge base has grown huge. So I can't imagine how much more it's going to grow over next year. So I appreciate all the information you shared with us this evening. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the drum set. It went to great use. Mr. Spoldy took that immediately and said, "I got a kid for that." So thank you.
Good. Go ahead, Ms. Pickett.
I also want to thank you all for coming. Thank the students that came, and thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Doobie. You've come before us at curriculum a few times, and your presentation of like what's happening, what we hope to do, like all of that has been very thorough and thoughtful. So I really do appreciate that. I just want to highlight a couple of things that I think is important that we take note of as a board. One is our K-5 programming. Thank you for demonstrating all that we're doing, but the reality is that it is a missing piece. And I will highlight that because not only does that like personally impact my kiddos, but I think it's amazing that we're able to be flexible and be creative and ask more of our staff and students. But I also think that they deserve that opportunity at our elementary level. I also want to highlight one of my favorite music teachers, which is Miss Sam Gupta. I miss her. She was an Enfield Street music teacher. And I want to also just say it's not just the power of the music classes, but there's an element of community building that happens in these classes and what they bring to their school programming. And that happens through your staff as well. And so I will shout her out in particular. The last thing that is on my mind is around how can we maximize potentially some of our community connections in businesses. So there's quite a few small businesses. I love how you highlighted art and culinary as well. Like, so this comprehensive set of arts. I visited our new coffee shop in town and I was like, ooh, like they could have little music, like people singing there live, or like a acoustic cafe. Like I would totally go to that. So just thinking creatively, I'm here to brainstorm. And I think there's opportunities for businesses and our community collaborations. I know Enfield Cultural and Arts has been doing a lot with our students. So if we're gonna have to think big and think flexibly, I think there's opportunities to also maximize our partnerships with that. And the other piece that I just want to bring is I loved that inter-school music program for 5th grade, the opportunities for our students to see kids across grade levels. I think that is a great opportunity, but I do need to think, again, I'm going to say for priorities for us, ensuring that school day programming is happening for accessibility reasons and just like, and promoting it to keep going. And if there's a way that we can find grant money for summer programming, so that could support students as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Calnan?
I'll just join my companions here in congratulating you on an absolutely terrific program. It's really inspiring. This is a silly question, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. What about the Stowe Early Learning Center? Have you been able to tap into that as well? That's a very formative period in a child's life, and maybe you can strike while the iron is hot and just do something to motivate those children in the way of music appreciation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, that's one of our schools. Those are our children. We're a pre-K through 12 program. I think at the time being, we're staffed to cover what we're covering.
Yeah.
And so that's absolutely should be on our radar in all of my areas, quite frankly, between visual arts and PE. But I do appreciate those concerns and those comments, and we agree.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to interject. I do know that there is some like community collaborations that Jacqueline kind of weaves into for like music opportunities with like Miss Renee and like probably like more extracurricularly.
Sure.
But I would say there's music happening at Stowe.
Great.
Ms. Acree?
Hi, Mr. Doobie. Thank you for such a great presentation. I feel like the Enfield Public School District, your music program is top notch. Mrs. Tillman, the honor choir, they were amazing. They sounded so beautiful. And that tenor, really, he was excellent. I heard him loud and clear.
Oh, yeah.
I had the pleasure of course, attending on March 15th, and I wanted to congratulate you, Mr. Doobie, and all of the music specialists. Very talented teachers. Let's see, and the children, of course, sounded wonderful in each of the ensembles. Of course, how could you say my favorite is choir, but I do appreciate instrumental music too. I loved watching the students perform. They had great musical skills and talent and enthusiasm. So this is coming from a music specialist. So I really appreciate you guys are really, really good. Thank you. Kudos to all.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Mr. Gauss?
I'd like to thank you. The choir was amazing, and I have a son and niece that went through Enfield Music. I have another one coming up, starting in 6th grade next year, already playing violin. The program here is amazing. My son went through all of it: band, orchestra, marching band, everything, and it really is something special that Enfield does that not many towns are really enthusiastic about. And thank you for doing everything that you do.
Mr. Cover?
So thank you, Mr. Doobie, and I'm just going to echo what everybody said. I like your presentation. It was clear, concise. I like the motivation you brought to it. I think it's good for, again, for music that sometimes people may not come in with that high energy, and I think you're the person that fits that role, so that's awesome. I'm also glad you kind of addressed some of the opportunities, and again, as people said, it's nice to see you, even if we might not have the curriculum to get you in the younger grades, that you're thinking outside the box how to get in there. And I know, we've gotten comment and discourse about people trying to get the choral and the instrumental music back in the 5th grade, and, we'd love to make that happen. But if we can't, if there's other things we can do to try and get the music to those kids, I think that's great. So keep doing what you're doing, and it's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mrs. Cushman?
When I think of the presentation you gave in the curriculum committee, I thought that was pretty exhaustive, and yet you came and you wowed us even some more.
Very
thank
true.
you. Yeah, it was really exceptional. And I just wanted to offer my thanks to the students who came that really were able just to bless us with their time and their talent this evening. It just made what a special start to our meeting tonight. Thank you for what you do and invest in our district.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Doobie, you had successfully everybody on the board commented tonight. You guys are amazing and top-notch. Thank you for the hard work that you do. I saw Mr. Rapucci on the way out of central office this afternoon, and I thanked him for his excellent job with jazz. Jazz is like one of my favorite things. And, music touches everybody, even if they don't play an instrument or sing or whatever. Everybody listens to music, and music gives so many people a chance to feel and express things that sometimes they can't even articulate. And Enfield definitely blows it out of the water. The Music Fest, thank you for doing it with the inter-school music. I mean, my daughter took advantage of that. She's ready to rock and roll for 6th grade, so get a violin ready, because we're coming. But I was really amazed that the progress that you made with those students over such a short period of time who had never played an instrument before. Like, when those strings got up, I was like, okay, well, I know what to expect because I used to play. But I'm like, wow, it was amazing. It was great. I mean, last year's was great, but this year's was, amazing. And our honors choir that came up tonight, I mean, they could sing at, I don't know, anywhere. Music, Broadway, whatever, they're just amazing. I can't say enough good things about our music department. Thank you to all the music teachers. You guys do an excellent job. And thanks for, energizing music in Enfield again. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, we're good.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got superintendent's report, and I see Mr. Macchio on the TV.
Yeah, I see myself in the background on the TV as well. It's a little scary. Takes me back to last June or July when we were on a ship doing this all over again. But just before I start off and I turn it over to the kids for the student representatives update, I apologize that I couldn't be there this evening due to the travel plans that we had. But I do want to thank, obviously, not just Mr. Doobie, but the entire music department for everything that they have done. It is, as you can see, I don't know how Mr. Doobie does it in terms of his effort, his energy, and it's a relentless energy every time I meet with him. But it is outstanding, and it's not just him, it's everybody in that department. They were given a pretty formidable task to try to reinvent and redevelop the program. They have a vision for where they want to go. I think we have an agreement and an understanding that we want to continue to expand it. We want to continue to bring back a lot of things that were lost last year, but it's something that can't take place in one swell swoop. So we will get there, but we will get there over time. So again, I just want to make sure that I pass along my thanks and my congratulations for everything the music department's doing as well. With that, I'll turn it over to the two ladies for our student representative update.
Before Izzy starts, I just wanted to congratulate you, Izzy, on your North Central Act of Kindness Award that you got. So congratulations. Okay, take it away now.
Thank you. I want to say a big congratulations to our National History Day regional winners, Katia Diaz and Sophia Carrier. They've been winning for a few years now, so I want to say congratulations to them. This is their senior year. And then I have a big congratulations to our Scholar Athlete Award winners, which is going to be Maddie Archer and Kyle Kamei. His twin was just up here singing. Yeah. They're both being honored at a banquet hall on April 1st. And going off of what Mr. Doobie said, we had our first ever music fest last weekend, so big congrats to everyone that partook in that. And for our juniors, we had a junior assembly regarding senior pictures. I know Liv was in that. And then we have junior prom this Thursday at Twin Hills from 6 to 10 p.m. Hopefully you guys have fun. And then you guys, for juniors, also have SAT on April 4th, so good luck with that one as well. On the same day, we have Assistant Principal Appreciation Day as well, so say you appreciate your assistant principals. And their Buzz competition is going on March 29th and the 30th at Hartford High, and then they're gonna have their regionals at the Big East site on April 3rd. We also have, just like Mr. Doobie said, the CMEA All-State Music Festival. We have our students participating in that, and good luck to them as well.
Good evening, everyone. We have a lot of sports news going on. So I mentioned girls all conference hockey last week, or a couple weeks ago. But this week we have the boys hockey all conference players, which there's 3 of them: Luke Paholski, Jack McCann-Jones, and Cooper Love. Jack McCann-Jones made all-state first team, and Cooper Love made all-state second team, so congratulations to them. Jaden Levesque went to Nike Nationals for track and field in the 60-meter hurdles, which is very impressive. For girls basketball conference, we have Kendall Coffey and Alyssa Hosig. And for the boys basketball, we have Jason Mann. And spring sports have officially started, so although a lot of athletes are very excited about that. Some senior fundraisers we have coming up. April 4th is Red Robin Day for the class of 2025. And April 9th will be bingo night for the class of 2025. And finally, there will be a lamplighter performance of Cinderella the evening of the 4th and a matinee and evening performance on April 5th.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Macchio, B.
Yep, moving on, for B, we have just a big thank you. Obviously, I mentioned it last board meeting as well, but we want to take some time to recognize the members of the Board of Education for all of their time, their energy, their devotion, their dedication to everything that is about the Enfield Public Schools. For those who can't see or haven't noticed on camera, or if you're watching from home, all of the board members do have a number of items that have been made for them and prepared for them by the students and the staff members that are from across the district. And one of those items is going to be a brief video that Hazardville Memorial and Eli Whitney students put together. And I believe Alex is going to go ahead and transition us to that video now.
Good evening. We are 3rd grade students at Eli Whitney, and we have been chosen as kindness crew members for the month of March. My name is Scarlett.
I am Brody.
My name is Callie. I'm Zoe. And I'm Camilla.
Each month, the 3rd grade at Eli Whitney participates in an activity to spread kindness throughout our school and community.
This year, we have made crafts for the staff in our building, become pen pals with residents at the Suffield House, curated cards for sick children in the hospital, and more. This month, we would like to share our kindness with you by presenting a small gift to express our appreciation for everything you do to make our school a wonderful place to be.
From all of us at Eli Whitney, thank you.
Thank you!
A board of stars, that's what you are, guiding us near, guiding us far.
Through every choice and every plan, you lead us with a steady hand.
Thank you for all that you've done for making our school a place of fun.
You guide our school with thoughtful cares. Ensuring learning happens everywhere. Through plans and policies, big and small, you serve to make our school great for all. So here's our thanks, both big and true, for all the amazing things you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for making our school a great place to learn and grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your dedication, your time, and all the effort you've put into our school for our children to succeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because of you, our school is a place where we can dream big and achieve more. Thank you. Thank you for helping our brains grow. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your unwavering commitment to making our schools a better place for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of the hard work you do for our students and teachers.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership and supporting our education. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership and vision, which make a lasting difference in the lives of students, teachers, and families.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for helping our schools shine brighter every day.
Well, I guess that's the best way to sum that up at the end is obviously we will all want to thank you and everyone, all of the board members, past and present as well, for everything that you do for all of us at the Enfield Public Schools. So a big thank you to the Board of Education. Couple other quick items, and then we will turn it over to audiences. But we, just as a reminder, the Junior National Honor Society induction ceremony is coming up. That is going to be held tomorrow night, the 26th. Board members have been invited. It's at John F. Kennedy Junior National Honor Society induction ceremony. You should have an invitation with additional details. Enfield Gets Ready for Kindergarten is going to be coming up. The Enfield Kite and Public Schools will hold the annual Enfield Gets Ready for Kindergarten Parent Information Night. That's going to be on Thursday, April 3rd. You should have a packet in your flyer with additional information related to that. And for the EPS update, just really 2 items. And it seems like it's fitting that today we spent the first 4 hours of the day doing a technology tour. As you just saw, there's a lot of different utilizations that we have for the iPads and creating their videos. I would not be surprised if tomorrow in one of the kindergarten classrooms over at Memorial, there'll be breaking news about Board of Education Appreciation Month as we help to film that breaking news in the kindergarten class for them. But big thanks to Dr. Wiley, as well as John Digg, Jen Piquette from the Ed Tech team for really taking us through that tour. We visited over the course of 4 hours. We were in 4 different schools and we went to almost 20 different locations. And we saw a incredible variety of uses that we have within technology. And I'm talking about more than just the iPads and more than just the laptops. Some of the machinery and technology that we have at the high school especially is just incredible for the kids to be able to utilize. And then when you look at the things that they're doing at the middle school, you have to shake your head at everything that they're able to do now as compared to what we were able to do in the past. So a big thanks to all those teachers as well. And then last item for me is I believe Kathy has provided or passed out an update related to the school hours for 2025 and 26. You should have a copy that has some yellow highlights to it. So I just want to take you through it quickly and sort of how we got here. So when we compared 2020 or our current school hours to next year's school hours that we previously discussed when we set the calendar, I think the number one thing that we did was we tried to provide the early release time that was a true early release. It was it was a true half day so that we could be able to provide a more robust professional development. So when we did that, everybody became consistent in terms of their early release times, and everybody was going to be released 3.5 hours into the day. Went back and forth with Smith Bus Company, and Smith Bus sort of noticed one item that had sort of slipped by us, and that was the difference in times that we were going to need between the high school and the middle school. When we shifted everybody to the same length of time for early release, we came across the fact that we had varying amounts of time, depending on what level school you were at. Whether you were primary, intermediate, they had one amount of time for the day. So I want to say they were around 385 minutes in the day is what those kids went to school. And then you had the high school, which had 395. And then you had the middle school, which had 410 minutes in the day. So it really just didn't make much sense, to be honest with you, of why we had these varying amounts of time. When we did some investigation and looking back into it, it went back to a very old homeroom model that was in place over at the middle school that has not been utilized in the distant or in the recent past. So we made the decision that we would look at equating everything out to a 400-minute day. So this updated version of the 25-26 calendar provides all students through the school district a 400-minute day. So what that means is while there is a little bit of a reduction for JFK, JFK was really in need of some wraparound time in terms of being able to have time for the staff to be able to get in and get prepared and be able to be after school for a little bit. So that was it provided them some help. But really the major lift here is that our primary and intermediate kids are going to be getting an extra 15 minutes per day of schooling. So it doesn't seem like, 15 minutes, a quarter hour per day. When you multiply that out times the number of days that they're impacted by, when you compare it to a 400-minute day, over the course of next school year, those kids are going to be able to have the ability to have 6.6 additional days of school. So we just felt it was incredibly important to make it an equitable number of minutes across the district. So the decision was made to shift some of the times. We did run this by Smith Bus. They are good with it. Basically, we have enough time built in between all of them. There was some small changes that had to be made to end of school times in terms of maybe 5 minutes, 8 minutes, something like that. But we think we have a nice solid schedule to be able to consistently be able to move forward starting with next school year. So I just wanted to have some explanation behind how we got to this point, and to make sure that you're aware of it, because this will now get placed in the back of next year's school calendar, and we'll move forward with it from there. And I think that is everything that I have for this evening. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Macchio.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to move up item 11A to 7F, the approval of education specs for Edgar H. Parkman roof replacement project for the Gaston Deg.
Okay, so a motion to move 11A to 7F.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pickett. Any discussion? Show of hands in favor. There is 8 in favor, against, abstentions, 1 abstention. Okay. All right, Mr. Degg, you can come on up. And you are here this evening to discuss the Edgar H. Parkman roof replacement project.
Yes, thank you. This isn't Groundhog Day. I have been here before talking about this. There was a minor change. So in your board packet, you received an amended ed spec for the Parkman roof project. There was one minor change in section 2 that indicated our intention to continuously occupy the space for the next 20 years. That's language we've previously put in our other ed specs for roof replacement projects. And also, coming back is when preparing the non-priority application for that project, there's a process question once you get to the second section of the application. And it asked if the project was part of a plan, a capital or long-term capital plan that the board had been in communication with the town. Our structure in Enfield is a little bit different, where the town develops our capital improvement plan. So I'm here tonight to kind of bring that plan back to you. So the more important document, I think, in your packet was the appendix, which was the 2-page table, which outlined the capital improvement plans and changes there. The last time the capital improvement plan was shared was part of that pre-K through 5 school modernization committee. It was a 2023 document, which outlined the capital improvement plan. There was a mismatch, so the Parkman roof at that time was scheduled for 24. Held off because of that work. There's an update to the plan which moves Parkman and Crandall to the 25 year to submit for roof replacement projects. So because of our structure, we're bringing this to the board for your review and updating you on that information, and that would satisfy that requirement for the application. Are there questions regarding the slight change to the ed spec or the update moving the roof projects to fiscal year 25 for roof replacement?
Any questions? Ms. Pickett?
I just have a comment. So I just have to say it for my own peace of mind, being on the pre-ref committee, knowing that we haven't finalized locations, putting this in, doing this work, impact it would have. I know Parkman's not one of the prospective potential sites from the old planning, but we don't have any final decisions yet. So I just want to put that out there and just ask openly about how that impacts pre-ref committee work.
Yep, it potentially could. However, at a certain point, the timeline is going to be fairly long. Some of these schools will need work in the meantime. Mm-hmm. With that not being decided, there is still options for that work to be included in a project. So let's just say that a Parkman is decided to be used for some site, and it does meet certain requirements in a renovate status. It is possible that that may not be impacted. It's possible that it will. It's really difficult to say without a full plan from a architect or a licensed construction estimator.
Perfect. I appreciate you, John. I don't mean to put you in the hot seat or on the spot. I also just appreciate all the work that you've done for our buildings and getting information and materials together. And a capital improvement plan that our community understands how we're using our buildings, I think is a community conversation we could all have. So thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Cover?
Yep.
Yeah, so just tying into Mrs. Pickett's questions about the pre-ref. So because this ed spec now has the lingo for the 20 years, I guess what would be, if the referendum brings us and we develop different schools and for some reason we can't meet that 20 years, like what would be the repercussions of that?
There's still probably a pretty good opportunity for some of these sites to be occupied in some function as a relation to the school. There's still opportunities for location of preschool, of programs. So I think there is a fairly good chance that it could be used. Worst case scenario, the town would be on the hook for the unamortized amount of the project. I think there's a certain amount of willingness on their part to take that risk because there is a need now to begin replacing the roofs. We had already had to move some classrooms at Stowe, Parkman, and Crandall. Both have had leaks, particularly if there's certain types of weather. With the timeline for these projects extending out to 10 years or so, it's in their judgment that it's probably worth putting in or at least beginning the process for these. It is also relatively lengthy. It doesn't mean that things couldn't change if decisions are made fairly soon. There's a pretty decent amount of time between when you submit an application, when you get approval, and when things could be bid.
Okay, that makes sense. And I think the last time you presented, we did talk about this was going to be a long-term project, and I guess it's reassuring too. So if we change the function of the school, like you said, potentially it's a preschool or something, all that or something, as long as it's an EPS school, we'd still be abiding by this.
Correct. And even with some changes in law recently, even if it remains within a town function, you don't have to pay back.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right, and then so after this, then this is going to go into the April submission to the state.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is there a motion we have to make tonight?
What?
Is there a motion we have to make tonight? Or
Yeah, we have to approve it.
Okay.
Yep. So I need a motion to approve the ed specs for the Edgar H. Parkman roof replacement project.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Ryder. I need a second. Second by Dr. Kalman. Any discussion? Can I have a roll call, please, Kathy?
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett?
Abstain.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalman?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Digg. All right, so moving on to item 8, audiences. So when you come up, you'll have 4 minutes. Just state your full name for the record and your relationship to the district. So first on the list is Kelsey McGuire Bruce.
Okay. Kelsey McGuire Bruce, 63 Neylands Road, Enfield teacher. Good evening. I'm here tonight because currently our Connecticut Education Association has a campaign called Teachers Go the Extra Mile. We often hear the phrase, teachers go the extra mile, but what does that really mean? It's not just about the obvious things like the special events in the classroom. It's the everyday actions, big and small, that make such a difference in the lives of our students. Let me start with a middle school teacher who is consistently thinking of her students and their diverse needs. She takes the time to translate every single math worksheet, every single class note into Spanish for her Spanish-speaking student who just arrived here, ensuring that they have the same opportunity to succeed as their peers. That kind of commitment doesn't happen during the school hours. It's a mindset that spills over into her personal time, and it's something that many teachers do to ensure their students feel seen, valued, and supported. This commitment doesn't stop in the classroom. I personally had the privilege of attending a few soccer games this fall and just took my own children to some basketball games this winter. I saw firsthand how teachers show up for their students outside of school. We're in the stands, cheering, offering support, and giving students a sense of pride, and knowing that their teachers care about their extracurriculars just as much as their academic work. At the elementary level, the love and care teachers give extends into the small but significant things too. Have you ever thought about how many classroom teachers purchase boxes of Costco granola bars or snacks to provide for students who might not have a snack that day? These small acts of kindness go unnoticed by many, but they make the world of difference to those students. It's not in their job description, but it's something that teachers do because they want to make sure every child feels taken care of. And let's not forget the countless classroom events that teachers plan, events where teachers families come in to see the work their children have done. These events are filled with joy and celebration, but often the snacks and refreshments for these events are provided out of the teacher's own pocket. It's a simple but powerful example of how educators go above and beyond to ensure their students and their families feel welcome, valued, and appreciated. But there's another form of going the extra mile that happens behind the scenes and often very unnoticed. Teachers spend hours at home grading, revising, and rethinking their lessons. Sure, they may have a lesson plan that they can use from year to year, but the group of students have different interests, different needs, and different questions. So they have to take the time to rewrite those plans, create new materials, and develop new ways to make the same standards come alive in a way that speak to those students. This is not just all about teaching, it's about caring enough to put in the extra effort to engage and inspire each student in their own unique way. As a community, we need to recognize and honor the fact that teachers go the extra mile every single day. Teachers don't do it for recognition, but the recognition is absolutely deserved. Teachers' commitment and hard work are what transform our schools into an environment of growth, understanding, and success. So let's support educators and remember that the work we do, often unseen, makes a lasting impact not only on the lives of our children, but on the community as a whole. The success and growth of our students extends into families, neighborhoods, and beyond, creating a stronger, more connected community for all of us. Strong public schools equal a strong community. Thank you, and happy Board of Education Month. Thank you for all you do to make our schools a better place. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Next up is Wendy Osada. Osada, okay.
So I'll say that again, Wendy Osada.
Yes. Thank you.
It's good to see some of you again, by the way, that I haven't seen in a while. Is your mic on? Is it red? Now it is.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. So again, nice to see some of you that I haven't seen in quite a while. I have to ask for some flexibility tonight because although my comments are not related directly to education, they are related to the youth of Enfield. And I'm here speaking on behalf of the Enfield Greater Together Community Fund. I'm currently a member of the advisory committee, and we design and lead an inclusive process to identify the needs of our community and oversee a grant-making process aimed to ensure that the Greater Together community funds can have the greatest impact for the benefit of Enfield residents. So at the last town council meeting, I spoke to both offer and ask for support. The offer was to advise that the committee would soon be kicking off another grant-making cycle. The maximum grant award is $5,000, and to be eligible for a grant, grants must be utilized to benefit the community of Enfield. Organizations applying must be exempt under a 501c3, or organizations that are not classified as 501c3 may use a fiscal sponsor that are. However, tonight I need to rescind that offer and only ask for support. The advisory committee is currently unable to kick off another grant cycle due to an insufficient number of committee members. The committee plays the lead role in deciding how Enfield's Greater Together community funds will be used. The meetings are held the second Thursday evening of each month, so it's not a huge time investment. Without having the minimum number of required committee members, the town of Enfield is losing out on tens of thousands of dollars that could be benefiting the community, including its youth. So as Enfield residents who do not hold a town elected position are eligible to apply, including students age 14 and over. Of course, they'll have to have parental permission to do so. So as long as we don't have enough committee numbers, we cannot award grants that will benefit the town of Enfield and its residents. To apply for a position on the advisory committee, please search online for the Enfield Greater Together Community Fund. And as I said at the town council meeting, you have to be careful because there's a very similar organization by the same name in England. And so you have to make sure that you're selecting the one in the United States. Or if you'd like, I have the name of the org printed out on some slips of paper I can give you along with my contact number so you can reach out to me if you have any questions. So I know the folks here on the committee aren't actually, or the Board of Education aren't eligible because you are elected officials. However, I was just hoping to get some visibility here. So asking folks that are seeing this, please consider serving on the committee if you're eligible or suggesting it to someone that you know who may be interested. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wendy.
Should I leave that on or shut it off?
Just leave it on. It's fine. All right. Maureen Griffin.
Hi, Maureen Griffin, Abbey Road, Mom. You guys have passed a budget request. It's just a request. It's up to the town council to approve the amount requested. It's up to the parents in the community to impress upon the town council the importance of approving the budget as requested. Last year's budget earthquake and resultant staff cuts would not have happened if the town council had approved the budget that the Board of Ed passed and requested. Some of the things that were lost that really, I think, are important. The team method of teaching in the middle school. If you haven't had a middle schooler, it was a group of teachers that worked together for a set group of kids. So they got to know the kids, they met about the kids. So if a kid was struggling with something, not a kid who had a 504 or an IEP, so was set to have extra help, but just was struggling with something, the teachers could look to talk to each other and say, well, what's working in your classroom? And, oh, is it a way of making a hierarchy of what he's got to do? Okay, well, I'll help him with that in my class, and I'll help him with that in mine. Really coming together to support the kids in what their needs are and brainstorming on how to help the kids and to know what the kids' strengths are, know how to reach those kids. That's gone. It's not that the teachers aren't trying their best, but it's a lot harder to do when you have a lot more kids and you don't have a consistent person that you know is also teaching that child to go to. Another thing that was lost is a lot of the support staff in the classrooms. And the increased numbers of the kids in the classroom, you're introducing a new concept to the kids. This is at all levels. You're introducing a new concept to the kids, and one of them's having a little trouble picking up on what it means. Well, if you had a couple of paras in the classroom, they could pull aside and say, okay, what is it you got going on? Or if the teacher needed to do it, they could help them in real time. Not nearly as possible right now. This budget is important, and it can't be just the teachers advocating for the budget for our kids. We need parents to step up. The budget is going to the town council in the next few weeks. Ideally, parents would attend the town council meetings, but reality is that doesn't work for a lot of people. And it's really can be intimidating to sit here and talk. I have no problem because I have a mouth. I have lots of opinions. So if that's not workable for you, please email the members of the town council. Their contact information can be found on their webpage on the Town of Enfield website. We've got to do it for our kids. And the town council needs to hear from not just parents. There's a lot of people in town who don't have kids in the school. I've been contacted by people that say, how do we help these kids? Please contact the board. They're the ones who hold the purse strings. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Maureen. And Tricia Wright.
Hi, my name is Tricia Wright, and even though I do know Maureen, I swear we didn't know we were coming tonight together because I'm going to piggyback on what she just said. I'm an alumni parent. So let's see, I have 2 fully alumni of Fermi, and 3 years at Fermi and 1 at Enfield High. He was the first combined graduating class. I spoke at the town council meeting a couple weeks ago, and I very much encouraged all of them to watch what Ms. Clark had put together, and I believe Mr. White, he's new to me, sorry. I hope I'm getting his name right. Their presentation, as well as the budget that the superintendent worked on with, I'm sure, a whole bunch of other people. My concern is that my oldest graduated 10 years ago, or almost 11 years ago now, and that was the first debacle where 124 teachers got fired, and I kind of thought that maybe we would have learned from that. I came to the Board of Ed meeting last month, and I was so encouraged by all of you, that there was communication and conversation. Not always the nicest, but from 10 years ago, you guys are night and day. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was at the town council meeting, like I said, last month, or earlier this month, I think, and Mr. Daigle did his presentation on, and as a taxpayer, embarrassed that the schools are in this much disrepair. So let me make it clear, they need to be fixed. But I said to the town council, they also need to put the money into the people who use the buildings, the teachers, the administrators, the kids. So I'm asking you and encouraging you to keep it up. Work together, please, work together. And remind the town council that this is for the kids and the teachers, and everybody's working hard. I'm not surprised that the teachers all rallied and made this year work at all. And I, too, was surprised that Mr. Doobie took over the music program. He was my oldest teen leader teacher, learned how to tie a tie, learned how to do a presentation. And, you know, watching him tonight, it was fabulous. So I thank you for all of your hard work. I just want to encourage you to keep it up. I know it's not easy. I was a little heartened at the town council meeting. Didn't seem to be too terrible when the budget came up. Yes, I know the numbers are not together, but they're not as far apart as they were last year. So maybe there's some room for compromise. So I just want to encourage you, keep going. I'm not the only taxpayer that is behind you guys, and I agree with Maureen that everybody, if you can't come to the meeting and talk, it is intimidating. I'm not gonna lie. Email's great, texting, pick up the phone, but the town council needs to hear from everybody. So thank you again for all your hard work.
Thank you, Tricia. Okay. All right, moving on to board member comments. Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Ms. Pickett.
I'm always ready. All right. First, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. I texted my husband already that we need to find a spot on our wall for the beautiful panther picture over here, and I claim dibs on it. So I really thank the school staff for putting this together. I can say that I sit here for you, the staff and the students in our community. Kelsey, you're right. Our staff does go the extra mile, and I have countless examples of that, so that's why I sit here. So thank you for what you do and what the staff does each month. As Board of Appreciation Month, as crazy as things are, I do want to piggyback on the last speaker's comments. I am proud to sit on this board. I do think that we do have courageous dialogue up here. I do think that we work across the dais, and as stressful and crazy as things are, we are working in a united way to support our students, and I thank you all for that. I do want to address some of the impact of the decisions that are being made nationally, because they do impact Enfield. Another interesting thing that I think is important to share is just because there's executive orders, there are things called laws and constitutional rights, and I encourage folks to think about that carefully. So if I did my math right, looking at the presentation that we received as a Board of Ed in January, Enfield Public Schools receives over $2.4 million from federal funding to support Head Start, homeless students, staff salaries, benefits, professional development for our staff, resources for our multilingual learners, transportation costs, and way more. We receive an additional $1.5 million from IDEA, which I hope folks would know is the Individuals with Disabilities Act. This is about $4 million in federal funding, our taxpayer dollars that support students and community that are at risk to instead support, I'm not sure. So as an advocate for public education, I think it's important that I share my perspective and some accurate information. As a professional at the state level, the cuts are already hurting. Dismantling and unfunding of national experts and organizations that provide training and capacity to our state level experts has been cut. The funding for supporting local farms and healthier school lunches, which I was hoping Enfield could participate in, has also been cut. And harmful rhetoric is encouraging hate that's impacting students in our school environment daily. Without the U.S. Department of Education, there's no national consistency in expectations for students and standards. This impacts transient, military, or anybody who has to move. But most devastating, it impacts and causes inequities in education. So if you have a child with a 504 plan or an IEP, this is impact. If you depend on free or reduced lunch, impact. If you're a multilingual family learning English, impact. If you have a child applying for college, impact. If your child attends public school, impact. Public education is what makes America great, and I'm not going to sit by and let national or local elected officials work to dismantle it. Which brings me to my next point. There's a lot of chatter about our town budget and how much our public schools should receive. I want to be clear that our kids' education should not be a political pawn. Our students and our staff deserve all the resources that they need, and our conservative ask of 5.6% is just a sliver of what we really need. We need this amount to address our class sizes, the mandated services for special education and our multilingual learners, and the few additional staff we've added into this budget. I'm asking all elected officials to truly pause and think about the importance of an educated community. Prioritize our kids. Give them a fair shot. I encourage them to watch the video we got from Eli Whitney and Hazardville, look at the program of studies that was mentioned, see what's happening in our buildings each day. Please don't let our kids be the casualties of political warfare. I also want to address some concerns that I'm having about safety in our schools. Again, I remain concerned by the number of 911 notifications we receive. I'm asking that we as a board could review our school security and safety plan that has to be submitted annually to the Department of Emergency Management Services. I'm not really interested to review that very confidential document. I'm most interested in how we have defined roles and responsibilities, especially with our new security model and partnership with Enfield Police Department, and how we're supporting our staff with training and follow-up support. We had a major incident at the high school. There was a recent major physical altercation at the middle school, and some other safety concerns. I think it's important that we have a clear understanding of how this model is working and supports that we might need to readdress. I also want to thank Parkman and ERFC staff. There was an amazing math night. I know we have an opportunity to chat in a little bit further in the agenda about our schools, but I think I'm sharing it now because that math night demonstrated an awesome partnership with the ERFC, and I think that's something as we're moving forward with strategic planning, maximizing our partnerships, opportunities for collaboration, engaging our families is huge. I also think there's some opportunity for consistency in programming across our schools. Even just looking at the music programming that was highlighted, it's not consistent what's happening between our buildings, and I think there's some opportunities to really look at some alignment there. I just wanted to make a comment. I'm excited about the additional 15 instructional minutes. Mr. Macchio, that is a big deal. I think that does matter. I do think that we do have to think carefully about how we're messaging school starting and ending times to families. So thinking about our back to school messaging, things like that, because that is a change and that is different. And I'll save my curriculum committee comments until then. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Anybody else on it? Mr. Gauss?
I'd like to say that I got to participate in the technology tour today. Thank Mr. Macchio, Dr. Wiley, especially Jake, who was an Enfield High student that helped lead us around. It really opened my eyes to something that was presented a few months ago with the iPad replacement plan on how these are actually being impacting the students in the school and what they're using them for. It was actually quite impressive, and like Mr. Macchio said earlier, we met with a lot of people. All the principals were helpful, the teachers were helpful. It was really a great opportunity to see what's happening in our schools with the iPads, with other technologies, manufacturing, things like that, 3D printing, machining. These kids are really learning a lot, and it was really eye-opening to be able to take that tour today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gauss. Mr. Kober.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll be relatively quick today. I know it just passed, so I hope everybody had a happy St. Patrick's Day, and welcome back. I did want to pay homage to our guest on the music program. So I was kind of mentioned I like to throw in some quotes. So I found a good quote from Aristotle that goes, "Music has the power of forming the character and should therefore be introduced in the education of the young." So I think that's perfect and kind of ties into, keeping music in our curriculum and try to get it to our youngest people. I also was part of that technology tour today of the district, which I think was a great follow-up to the technology replacement plan that we were talking about. And as the superintendent mentioned, just getting through the 4 different schools, seeing the iPads being used, seeing the kids in the classroom use them from high school down to kindergarten, I think was great. And also, just lastly, because we got all the artwork and the gifts and the video presentations, I know it's Board of Ed Appreciation Month, but I also want to thank the students and staff that kind of participated, took time out of their day, put the gift bags and all that stuff together, and just basically say you're welcome for that. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Ms. Legg.
Okay. So congratulations again, Izzy. I'm very proud of you. And it's no surprise at all that you received that award. So I'm so proud. I was so happy. I just want to take a second to say I apologize for getting a little choked up during the video from Whitney and Hazardville and seeing all this evening. This is my last Board of Ed board member appreciation night. So through all the very rough times that I've had as a board member, it's been nothing short of amazing to have been such a small part of something so big that helps kids. And I won't miss the stress, but what I will miss the most is being able to honorably represent the kids and the staff of Enfield Public Schools. To Kelsey McGuire Bruce, thank you. Teachers do go the extra mile, and I know that a lot of us up here know that and appreciate that. And that extra mile could seem like it's something so small to you, but it's a huge, huge extra mile to the students and the families. Ms. Wright, I love when the people from the past come to these meetings and how many changes have occurred since the first graduating Eagles walked down that hill in 2017, because I chuckle with Mr. Doobie, right? Like, he's so intense in team leadership and coaching baseball, but it's just, you would not expect him any other way about music and anything else he does, right? So it's great. And yeah, I mean, I remember that first round of 120 teachers, and history is repeating itself. So, and that was a time there wasn't any dialogue about it on the Board of Ed. It was like, this is what we're doing. I just wanted to bring up, we were invited, Chairwoman Riley and Superintendent Macchio, we were invited to the state capitol by Representative Santinella for a meeting with the Speaker of the House regarding Alliance money. I appreciate Representative Santinella's willingness to open doors for discussion around Alliance money and advocating for education. There was a follow-up meeting with leadership that included Representative Santinella, Representative Hall, Senator Kissel, Mayor Nelson, Chairwoman Riley, Superintendent Macchio, Deputy Superintendent Longi, and Town Manager Chris Bromson. I will say I appreciate the dialogue with Senator Kissel around the Alliance designation. There is something that became abundantly clear about the previous House representatives regarding our Alliance designation and their willingness to advocate for it. All I can say is I really appreciate Representative Santinella for taking the time to find out why and how can we get our Alliance monies. What does it take? We don't want anything more, we don't want anything less, but if we are going to be an Alliance designation, what does it take for us to get our monies? I want everyone to be prepared that this is going to be a topic of the budget discussion, and I also want people to be prepared for many mistruths that are going to be spread surrounding this meeting that we had at the Capitol. But I'm going to be here every step of the way to make sure you are presented with the facts, because this is going to be a major topic when it comes down to the budget discussion. Ms. Griffin, thank you for advocating for the budget. I agree, it just can't be the teachers advocating for the budget. Unfortunately, based on some leadership meetings and conversations with my own town council constituents, I am deeply concerned regarding discussions around the budget and the budget amount coming towards the Board of Education, especially based on alliance monies. It is imperative that residents, families, and staff watch the town manager's budget presentation and, more importantly, attend and watch the town council's budget deliberations. Those budget deliberations are very telling as to where the priorities are when it comes to what we want to fund and what we don't want to fund. Each presentation we receive, like this evening regarding music, we want to get the music back in the K through, in the 5th grade. The program of studies night. We want, the career center back. We need this back. Outlines restoring important aspects of curriculum or programs. Every presentation we receive. Not funding our budget does not give us chances to rebuild. It just sets us back. If alliance monies are held against us, this does not help us rebuild. I wanted to add, so I didn't read the agenda. I just knew I had the moment I thought I had the moment of reflection. So I wrote a moment of reflection that I really, really liked. So I just want to end with that. Let me just go because I thought it was all something we could need a little bit right now because the world is so crazy. So I just wanted to kind of put this out there. In life, we frequently encounter moments of self-doubt, uncertainty, or perhaps failure. And during these hard instances, it can be useful to remind ourselves of our worth, our energy, and our ability. Note to self quotes serve as powerful reminders, inspiring us to overcome our obstacles, stay focused, and maintain a positive mindset. Note to self. Be kind to yourself. Treat yourself with love, compassion, and forgiveness. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Every step forward is a step closer to your goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. Mr. Ryder?
Thank you. So since we last met as a group, I had the opportunity, and I saw Ms. Cushman was pictured as well, and Mr. Macchio was pictured as well, and I'm sure more of us were there than pictured, but I had a chance to read at Hazardville Memorial School last week, and it was my understanding that I was going to be like a room reader. So I first showed up, and there was 20 other adults, guardians, parents, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas in the hall. And I was like, oh, but they got a lot of room helpers all starting at the same time. We were all assigned to the same room. It wasn't that we were reading to classrooms, which was different and special, but something that Dr. Fitz and Ms. Tate put together was that we were reading to individual students. And it gave us a chance to sit with a student one-on-one for 30 minutes. And actually, the first book was read to me, and the second book I read, it was a bit of a tongue twister, one of those Dr. Seuss books. But it was great. I'm in the buildings quite a bit. But visiting Hazardville is very important to me and special to me, as that's where I got started as a PTO dad when I walked my kindergartner into school in the fall of 2013 and didn't leave for 6 years because my kids were 3 years apart, not because I couldn't make it through. So I enjoy every visit, and I am there quite a bit, but it was a very good day, and I wanted to thank you both again for the invitation. I also want to thank my classroom teacher, Mrs. Neiman. She said she saw my name on the list and said, if he's coming here, he's mine. So that was very flattering. Also, since we last met, I had the opportunity to hand off some of our North Central Act of Kindness awards, including our award recipient to my far right. We also handed out awards not only to Izzy, but to other students at Enfield High School on March 13th, and then on March 19th, I was at JFK awarding some of our kindness students there. We had a pre-ref meeting where we got to tour some of the buildings a couple of Wednesdays ago, another meeting coming up this week. But I also attended EHS and JFK as a parent to all the parent-teacher conferences, which we now offer in the spring as well as the fall. And I want to thank the 5 or 6 teachers I met at both JFK and Enfield High that are educating both my 8th grade son and my junior daughter. And I thank them all individually, and I thanked other teachers as I saw them walk around the hall. And again, I just wish the halls were more crowded and that there wasn't just more of us parents there, but I appreciate these opportunities at any time, and they'll all answer emails and they'll all answer phone calls, and our staff is the best. But just to get a chance to go in when they've set aside their time to see us, I just want to encourage everybody to take advantage of that every fall and spring. So again, I just want to thank our staff at JFK and EHS specifically, as well as all of our EPS staff across Stowe through adult education. So thank you very much, and that's it for this week.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Ms. Guzman?
I just wanted to take the time to express my appreciation for all these thoughtful gifts. And when I think of the gifts, the videos were very sweet. And the kindness crew. And just looking at, certainly, I do appreciate the opportunity to visit, and I appreciate the invitation to come and to read. There's certainly, we don't get to see everybody when we visit this school, so it was neat to get to see all the classrooms. And it just reminds me of a quote by Eric Hoffer that says, "The hardest arithmetic to master is that which enables us to count our blessings." And to see all those faces just really helps us to appreciate why we do what we do. So thank you for the time that the students and staff put into their gifts for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. Ms. Acree?
Yes, congratulations, Izzy, of course. And I also would like to thank the beautiful cards, the video, the artwork that we received. I thank you, the constituents in Enfield. I thank you for appreciating us. And it is, as Ms. Pickett said, it is an honor to be on this board with these fine people to serve the Enfield students and community. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Acree. Dr. Kelman?
I'd just like to echo the sentiments of everybody who spoke before, how much we appreciate the expression of gratitude for our work on the part of the students of the Enfield community. It's very much appreciated. I've spoken on 2 previous occasions about the work of an organization called 119K, whose mission is to advocate for the needs of the 119,000 Connecticut children and young adults who are estranged from society at large, with the result that they have essentially checked out of school and dropped out of work. The 119K consists of 52 Connecticut mayors, first selectmen, and town managers, and it is bipartisan. In a recently released statement, 119K points out that the state has not increased the education cost-sharing base payment of $11,525 per student in over a decade, even though inflation has increased almost 2.8% per year for the last 12 years. So the end result is that more and more of the cost of education has been shifted to municipalities in the form of increased property taxes. In Enfield, the underfunding of our schools has been exacerbated by increasingly fraught educational circumstances. Our teachers and administrators have been trying valiantly to contend with the challenge of an ever-increasing number of special needs students. And unless they receive further assistance from the state, quite bluntly put, theirs is a losing battle. There has been so much acrimony in this town related to the cost of education. Maybe it's time we stop fighting with one another and look to the state of Connecticut to honor its responsibilities to its youngest citizens. It would be one thing if the state just didn't have the money, but in fact, it's been running a surplus for the last 7 years. There's no excuse for such hoarding, while the educational needs of our children are so pressing and so shamefully neglected. We must insist that our state government move immediately to increase the base payment of the education cost-sharing plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kelman. Okay, well, I totally agree with that statement, especially when the state and school finance project came and talked about that. I was like, are we even for real right now? Like, they really need to get that. They need to make the education cost sharing formula, not a rocket science project, and also equitable to all the towns around. Thank you so much for all of these amazing gifts. The video was awesome. I think Miss Acrease, she said it most eloquently. Like, it's an honor to be up here. It's an honor to serve the parents and students of Enfield. An interesting note about the Parkman Art Project is that is a bunch of art projects painted by students, which were then cut out and arranged by the art teacher, Maria Santarpia. Yep. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the big picture over here from Barnard is pretty awesome too. So that was really cool. And then, to Mrs. Bruce's comments about teachers go the extra mile. I'm thankful for the teachers that my kids have had over the years. Even before I even became involved with anything in the town, we've always had amazing teachers. The special education teachers that we have that have touched our family have been nothing less than stellar. I would definitely give a shout out to Miss Solano over at JFK. She helped my son excel and grow a lot in reading and made him think that he could actually do it, and gave him that confidence. And his one of his special needs teachers this year, Miss Colleen Brown, is an exceptional teacher. She has gone above and beyond, has written letters of recommendation and things for him. So I just wanted to thank those two teachers especially. And then I am slightly concerned by the comments that you made, Tina, about the budget, and then what you've heard about like Alliance, because maybe it's because like last week was pretty crazy at our household with children with being sick and things going on. So I kind of like was taking care of that, but because I haven't heard anything else since that follow-up meeting. So it'd be interesting to see what you've heard versus I've not heard anything about budget and where it's going. So anything anybody knows, let me know. That'd be helpful, so we can prepare if we need be. Yeah, and that's all the comments I have for this evening. And then, so we're gonna move on to 10, which is unfinished business, which we don't have any. New business, we took care of A already, and B, we have policy revisions first reading. So, Ms. Cushman, can you take it away with first readings of 5118.1?
Right. Policy 5118.1 is the homeless children and youth. Though much more succinct than our current policy, this proposed new policy from Shipman aligns our district with federal and state law by directing the administration to establish regulations regarding homeless children and youth. Essential information is now provided within the detailed administrative regulations, which clearly define key terms and address the role of the homeless liaison, as well as other essential elements such as enrollment, school selection, the process for dispute resolution, special services, and transportation. Please note that while the current policy number is being maintained, the title and text of this proposed policy, if passed, will fully replace our current one. I would like to make a motion to approve the first reading of Policy 5118.1, Homeless Children and Youth.
Motion made by Ms. Cushman. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kober. Discussion.
You know me. So, Janet, thank you for adding the piece around, I didn't catch what you were calling it, the administrative procedure piece. Do we know where that will be housed, posted? There's lots of stigma around like people self-disclosing if they're struggling with housing, but yet we want to ensure families and students and staff know what are their rights and how to access those. So do we know, A, where will those be housed, and how we will ensure staff, students, and families are informed?
Right, so any new policy that's passed, any regulation that will update staff or parents will be in the handbooks. So that'll be worked on as soon as these are passed.
All right, and then my next question is the last statement of the policy. So we're taking out a lot of the very scripted procedures, and I have just some concern about that because it is a place for people to be able to see and know what to expect, and without kind of seeing what will be in what we're going to share in handbooks. I'm feeling a little anxious about that. The other piece is the last sentence says, and I'm not sure what is meant by this, so if in the event of conflict between federal and state law, the provisions of the law shall control. What law? What does that mean? I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know what that sentence means, and I don't like it.
So I'll just add in, Ms. Pickett, that's kind of like a reserve supremacy clause that's kind of in a lot of our policies and stuff. So it's just saying, jumping down to the references, Connecticut statutes, the 10186 and 10253, if for any reason when the administrative regulations are written, if something conflicts with one of those statutory laws, then that part of the regulation would be voided because it would be superseded by the law. So that's just kind of highlighting that in the policy.
I guess, and I'm just going to name it here, my concern is that there can be differing state and federal laws around things, and which will prevail by how our policy is being written here.
Yeah, I mean, typically it's always going to be if they're in direct conflict, if the federal law would supersede the state law, which would supersede the policy, which would go down the administrative regulation. So that pyramid's always going to exist. This is just because the policy doesn't say everything the regulation does, it's just delineating in the policy that the regulation is superseded by those higher authorities, if that makes sense.
Yep, thank you, Phil. I appreciate this dialogue and your answers. I'm just going to then share that I have concerns that we're not spelling out then some of our procedures, especially if it's going to be held in a manual that's not yet out and we haven't seen. And this kind of, I'm just feeling some caution, especially around this very vulnerable population of students. So I'm just going to have some reservations tonight.
So I'll just
Go ahead, Ms.
make
Grover.
two
Yeah.
generic comments. I know because obviously this is one of our transitional policies where we're moving from the K model to the Shipman. So that's kind of why we're seeing a lot less text and delegation down to the administrative regulation. I know we haven't really talked to the policy committee, but I guess I'll mention it here. I know a lot of districts, they post their administrative regulations and their policies directly on their website. At this point, I don't think we have that many administrative regulations, and so they're not posted on our site, but I think that's something through coordination with the board and the administration that we should do, that, it'll clearly say board policies and then administrative regulations and then have it accessibly on the website too. I think, to Mrs. Pickett's concern, I think that would be a huge point and reassurance that we would do that. So at some point, and I know through our Director of Operations, we've talked about making it easier to navigate and stuff like that, and I think this would be the next piece. Once the administrative regulations are developed, get them posted to our website just so we could see them. The only other thing, and it just kind of hit me again when Ms. Pickett was talking about stigma, and I didn't think to mention this in policy committee, but I don't know if Connecticut's using it yet, but a lot of jurisdictions, instead of even just using the word homeless, they're now using the word unhoused. So we did get this from Shipman and Goodwin, so it looks like they haven't updated yet, but I guess that's something to think about, that do we want to just change that language to use unhoused? I don't think it gets at the heart of it anyway, but it's just something to keep in mind as words evolve and reducing stigma and stuff like that. So just kind of all my thoughts on it.
I would just share, Phil, I appreciate your comments. I like the idea of policy and admin regulations. I think I mentioned how we pass lots of laws, and then it's like, what do you mean by that law? That's great. That's not big state law, but even here with some of our policies, the piece around naming, I appreciate you bringing that up. My wonder is homeless, what is considered homeless is defined in state statute. And so my guess is the naming of it is aligned to definitions in state statute.
I did have a comment too.
Okay.
I'm not sure why. Well, in the policy committee, we did read through the regulations that have been offered by Shipman, and they are exhaustive. It is, compared to what our current policy is through CABE, I mean, it covers that and more. So it's very much, and my understanding, I believe, is the policy is written such that if there are changes in the regulations, you know, in the laws of what they should be, we don't have to keep updating the policy each time because the policy is just based on the regulations. So,
I appreciate that.
yes.
Anybody else? Okay, Kathy, roll call, please.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett?
No.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalnin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Mrs. Cushman, 5131.6.
Policy 5131.6, drug and alcohol use by students. This policy from Shipman is a direct replacement of our current K policy and provides more accurate, well-defined terminology and procedures that reflect current legislation. The language also aligns more closely with policy 5131.61, chemical health for student athletes, that was recently passed by the board. Please note, while the current policy number is being maintained, the title and text of this proposed policy, if passed, will fully replace our current one. I would like to make a motion to approve the first reading of policy 5131.6, drug and alcohol use by students.
Motion made by Ms. Cushman,
Second.
second by Mr. Kober. Discussion. Ms. Pickett.
So I guess what I struggle, and it kind of goes back to my comment on the last policy, this policy has lots of our procedures spelled out. So I guess I just asked for some consistency that if I like the idea of policy and then admin regulations, and then my wonder is just why we haven't kept consistent with that, because it seems like there's lots of procedures written in this that make the policy very scripted. So just noticing the differences.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. And Mr. Kober?
I can't offer much more on that because, again, this is taken directly from Shipman. I think part of the reason that they kept more of this in the policy is because there's a lot of like definitions and just kind of like going with the overview, like the policy is kind of that law that like we have to write and approve. So I think it wants to lock in those definitions and kind of like the broader like disclosure and search and seizure stuff versus the administrative regulations, which would be subordinate to this, that the superintendent kind of adopts and he approves, and it's more of like administrative law versus statutory law. So I think that's why Shipman kept a lot of this, that it's, if there's any changes, that it's going to come back through us as a board versus the other ones where it's administrative regulations, that could all get changed kind of outside of our purview. So that's probably how they balance it.
I appreciate it being spelled out. Like, I just think it offers, so I'm going to speak as a family perspective here. When something happens with your student, and these 5,000 series are typically things that impact our kiddos, and a administrator calls you and says your kid's being disciplined for this policy violation or this situation, this is what they're coming to look at to say, what do we do if this is happening to us? Or if my child happens to be in this situation. So I appreciate the spelled out things, and I guess that's what my concern with the last policy is, that those students deserve to know just as much transparently about their rights and procedures. So I appreciate this. I also just, yeah. So thanks.
Okay. Fair enough. Anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yeah.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalnin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to item C, approval of Head Start self-assessment plan. Okay, is Mr. Macchio still on? He checked that? Okay, all right, so.
He's not on.
All right, so let's see here. Our Early Childhood Initiative Director, Jacqueline Valley, is requesting the board endorse the Head Start self-assessment plan. The Head Start Policy Committee unanimously approved this on March 18th. Enclosed in our packet is the memo with additional information. And myself, Dr. Kalnin, and Ms. Pickett, we actually participated in this last year. As Dr. Kalnin, as his role as retired pediatrician, Ms. Pickett as her role at the state, and myself as role at the board. So we are basically proving tonight the plan on how are they going to self-assess. So like last year, we went for like the morning and went to different stations and we talked about like demographics and attendance and the services that they offer or what would be better services. And then at the end, they all come together, they assess it, and then after that, they'll put together their plan for improvement, how to move forward, and then we'll have to prove that later. But this is just to like approve the plan of how they're gonna assess. So I need a motion.
So I will make a motion to approve the Head Start self-assessment plan.
Motion made by Mr. Ryder. Second by Dr. Callanan. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I just wonder if I could spend just a couple of minutes clarifying further what we're being asked to approve tonight. The federal government requires the Head Start program to develop a 5-year self-assessment plan that reviews the community's preschooler education needs, the success that Head Start has achieved in addressing those needs, areas for potential improvement, and strategies for moving forward. So every spring, Head Start does a kind of status update to determine how well it is doing relative to the 5-year plan. On March 18th, the Head Start Policy Committee met to decide upon the timeline for proceeding with this process. And very briefly, I just want to outline exactly what that involves. In March, the management team conducts a service area data review to identify areas of focus. In April, participants in the review process are identified, as well as the location for the review process. On April 30th, the team is engaged by means of a virtual orientation, data to be reviewed, the self-assessment plan, and the 24-25 program improvement plan update. On May 7th, the participants will meet to review and analyze data, examine progress, identify opportunities, and make final recommendations with respect to program improvement. And finally, in May and June, the director prepares a self-assessment / program improvement plan and submits it first to the Head Start Policy Committee and then to the Board of Education for approval, after which it is submitted to the Head Start Regional Office together with the grant application. So I fully support the self-assessment plan, and I urge the board to approve it.
Thank you, Dr. Callanan. Ms. Pickett?
I'm just going to second what Dr. Callanan said as somebody who's participated in the self-assessment and just how Head Start offers programming to our families and our community. It is truly a collaborative process, and it's to me, one of our most successful programs because it centers students and families and our staff and engaging our stakeholders. I also think just a highlight for potentially our board and our town council to think about. I think Head Start is a place to really look at is how do we replicate some of those successful models. We have tremendous data that shows that the programming there is closing gaps and is working for families and for students just by all of the wraparound supports that are provided there. Like, it's a really intentional program. And I think, Phil, for transparency, everything Head Start does is public. They include families on their policy committees themselves. They do this process as a public process. I know Mr. Ludwig on the town council has talked about funding education and needing to know success and outcomes. I think Head Start has all that data to share of just how successful it is. So Head Start is one of our most successful programs. I want to remind folks that it's $1.1 million of federal funds that we need to make sure are protected.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Anybody else? Mr. Cover?
So I guess this is a general question. I'm not sure who's best to answer it, but just to kind of confirm, I guess, the scope of this. So this is approving the plan that will be used to develop the performance improvement plan, which is separate, and then that's also separate from the annual grant application for them, right? So this is just their plan of how to get to their the plan for the plan. Okay, that's a great way of putting it, Dr. Callanan. I kind of wanted to wrap my head around that. Because as I was looking through it, I'm like, there's not really a lot here. There's a couple, there's the one page and there's the slides and it's talking about a timeline and then it's talking about a 5-year plan, but it looks like this is just annually for this year. So it's the performance improvement plan that would be the 5-year plan then, I'm assuming, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right, I just kind of wanted to make sense of that, so appreciate
That's
it.
how they're going to plan the plan.
Plan the plan.
Plan the plan. Anybody else? Roll call, please.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Callanan?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Abstain.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. So, board committee reports, curriculum committee.
Yes, our last meeting was held on March 13th, and the literacy director, Nick Flynn, gave an update and overview on the implementation of the new K-5 reading program titled Into Reading. He provided the committee with an overview on the science of reading, and that it is decades of research regarding the brain science involved in the reading process. He explained the guidelines of what components an effective reading curriculum should have, such as the big five elements, the big five elements of reading, which would include phonemic awareness, and that means the ability for the students to hear and identify and manipulate sounds, phonics, reading fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, and also during the reading block, writing is included. The reading block is a period of 125 minutes, which each block contains direct instruction, guided practice, and small group rotations. Mr. Flynn also discussed the assessment and data reports that teachers can use to adjust instruction. And of course, assessments are used to see how well the students did. And the next curriculum meeting is scheduled for April 24th.
Thank you, Ms. Acree. Anybody? Okay. All right, finance and budget?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Finance and Budget Subcommittee has not met since the last meeting, so our next scheduled meeting is still for Monday, April 7th, 5 p.m. At this point, I guess I'll throw in our superintendent's weekly update. He gave us an update from the Superintendent's Association, which I think is just kind of important to put out there for everybody. So Congress recently approved the year-long continuing resolution. So that takes care of FY25 appropriations, and that provides level funding for K-12 programs, including IDEA, Title I, Title IV-A, and REAP. So I just wanted to say that we got that update and that go to the full board. So, when we talk about the federal fundings, at least we know which ones are fully appropriated for this fiscal year.
Policy committee.
Our next meeting for the policy committee will be next month, Tuesday, April 22nd at 5:30.
Okay, leadership committee, our next meeting is next Wednesday, April 2nd. All right, liaison, school reports or updates. Who would like to go? Mr. Ryder.
Just two quick updates from the Eli Whitney Wolves. Next Wednesday, April 2nd, please stop into Barnes & Noble between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. for Eli Whitney Night at Barnes & Noble. We will have special guest readers and an activity with our Best Buddies Club. Mention Eli Whitney at the register, and a portion of the sales that evening will go to support Eli Whitney School. And secondly, information will be coming out soon regarding our spring bingo. It's going to be held on April 24th, and we would like to invite all of the Hazard Memorial second graders and their families to come play bingo with us and get a sneak peek at their school, where they'll be going in the fall. And it's a nice casual way to hang out, see the building, enjoy some bingo, and it's less pressure than running around with an agenda, and you get to see the building you'll be attending in the fall if you didn't have any older siblings that already do so. So that's it for this week.
Mr. Ryder, Mr. Cover?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll do my normal shout out to the Henry Barnard Friends and Family. Do want to thank them for the artwork specifically that was gifted to the board. Last week, as a follow-up to St. Patrick's Day, there was a little whole school assembly on Monday, and they had some Irish step dancers came in. Heard some good reviews on that. Some upcoming dates to watch, and actually tomorrow night, Wednesday the 26th, there's a K1, a kindergarten and grade 1 playing science night. It'll be at the high school from 5:30 to 6:30. It's in partnership with Kite, Connecticut Science Center, so that's coming up. Big Cat newsletter has all the other upcoming dates. I guess the only one that's been added that I want to highlight is the field day, which will be Thursday. It's actually going to be Thursday, May 29th. So it looks like there is a typo in the last Barnard newsletter. It's just Thursday, May 20th, but that can't be correct. So Thursday, May 29th will be field day for Henry Barnard. And that's all I have.
I can confirm it's Thursday the 29th.
Okay.
You'll be there, DJ?
I will be there. I'm on tour again.
Again. Anybody else? Ms. Pickett?
I just want to again thank the Parkman staff and ERFC for the awesome math night that they hosted. I also know we had an audience member talk about the Enfield Together Coalition. There is a parent vaping presentation that they will be having. I encourage families, like the reality of substance misuse and sorry, getting distracted. The reality of substance misuse, unfortunately, in our community and with young ones is a real danger. And so seeing that our town services are putting on some programming with the Enfield Together Coalition. I will also highlight there's a lot of good information going out on Parent Square, stuff about like possible scholarships for past students, like lots of opportunities to be engaged and informed. So I'm going to just encourage parents. The app is easy. It's simple. If you have multiple schools, it's all on one app. So get your information.
Thank you, Ms. Piggott. Ms. Acree?
From the desk of Andrew DePere, thank you to all the Board of Education members who volunteer their time to help the students and staff here in Enfield. Our readathon was a great success. Thanks to our Crandall community for pledging our students. The students learn about the importance of reading as well as helping us bring in amazing authors. On Thursday, March 27th, students in 5th grade will take part in a Dangers of Vaping assembly, also put on by Enfield Youth Services. If parents are interested, they can attend the night virtual session, which will be on Tuesday, April 8th. The PTO is holding their annual Barnard Crandall raffle calendar, and each ticket enters you into the daily drawing for the 30 days of April 2025. Each ticket purchased gives you one entry. If you win, your name gets put back into the drawing pool. Please see the newsletter or the post on Parent Square to purchase tickets.
Thank you, Ms. Acree. Anybody else? Mr. Gauss, sorry.
Okay, from JFK, I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Misery. He's been selected as the 2025 George Sennett Middle School Unified Coach of the Year. That was not easy to say. He'll be honored at the AquaTurf Club. Also, there's exterior work going on at JFK for the next month, so people around the outside expect that. They'll be working on the schools. And just to continue with all of the amazing stuff about music, this is Music in Our Schools Month, and in the JFK newsletter are all of the places to sign up for the various extended things throughout the end of the year. Theater, music, jazz, all of that. And I also want to, because I didn't do this during member comments, but I wanted to thank all the kids for all of these things they did. It was pretty amazing to walk in. We've all taken a lot of it down so we can see, but it was just amazing to see all of that when I walked in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Kalman.
Just a few comments about Kite, I think. Where is it? Excuse me for just one second. Kite, in partnership with Enfield Head Start, is hosting the biannual Heritage Fair, and it is coming up this Saturday, March 29th, from 11 to 2:30 p.m. at JFK Middle School. There are close to 40 cultures represented through either food, display table, or performance. Free to attend, but cash for food. Kite, in partnership with Enfield Public Schools, is hosting Enfield Gets Ready for Kindergarten Night. This is for all incoming kindergarten students for the 25-26 school year. This year, the event will be on Thursday, April 3rd from 6 to 7 p.m. at JFK. It's free to attend. No RSVP is required, but please note there is no child care available. This is an opportunity to learn about the kindergarten day, meet school administrators, and hear more about how to get involved in your child's school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalman. Anybody else? Okay, Joint Facilities Committee. Our last meeting was on March 13th. The next meeting is on April 10th. So some things out of that meeting, the police department roof that they just put on, there was a material failure of all of the rolled roofing and it started leaking. So The contractor's going to come back and take it all off and fix it in April. The library roof is done, except now the gutters were taken off, and they need to be done because they were the wrong size that were put on. So the contractor's going to come back and take care of that. And then tonight we just approved the ed specs for Parkman, so that's going to go out in the first week of April to the state. And then they are going to, the town's decided to proceed with the Alcorn roof. So the next step is to go out to bid for the roofers. So that's joint facilities. Joint insurance, we haven't had a meeting, and we'll have to check on when we're going to get the next batch of information from Cigna and Lockton. Joint Security Committee, and the next meeting is on April 11th.
Yep.
We had our last meeting a couple weeks ago. I know you had some questions about Public Safety Committee. The 2 points that you had brought up with the ICE was not related to schools. That was just town internal PD. And then the other item was just regarding crossing guards, which the town hires through the PD, regarding to the crosswalk new situation at JFK. That was it.
Right there on Field Street.
Yep. So that was it.
Kids going to Dollar General.
Yeah, I mean, that place is pretty hopping, I hear, so. All right, so, yep, Mental Health Committee.
Our last Mental Health Committee meeting was held on March 12th. Dr. Callan provided an overview of the service titled Child First and what the services they provide. It is an evidence-based psychotherapy for children ages 2 through 6 who have been traumatized. This program is state-funded, and the children receive their services by way of home visits. Pediatric referrals are also utilized to identify children that need this particular support. The committee would like Child First to give a presentation to the next Mental Health Committee meeting, to any guests also that would be appropriate, so they could educate and discuss how the support service can be utilized in our Enfield community. Our next meeting in April is still to be determined.
Thank you, Ms. Acree. Pre-referendum committee.
Yep. So our next meeting is tomorrow at Crandall. The last meeting we toured Stowe, Enfield Street, and Eagle Academy. Thank you, Mr. Gauss, for joining us. A special thank you to Lauren Andrews, who enthusiastically shared her vision of Eagle Academy. Listening to how they originally wanted, the wings to go at Eagle Academy, and what her vision would be for that was really interesting. I did get an update. John Wilcox did respond to Randy, and I forwarded that email just a few minutes ago to you and Superintendent Macchio, and basically Mr. Wilcox forwarded the RFQ from the JFK committee.
Okay.
And I can see why there was confusion because the RFQ was signed by John Wilcox.
Okay.
And
Is he the one
so,
who's supposed to sign it all the time?
yeah, there was no direction in the email as to why he signed it and who he should be going to.
Okay. Yep.
And who he should be going to. So, like I said, I forwarded it to you and Steve so that maybe that's something
Find out.
you guys can
We'll
find
do
out.
some digging.
Okay. Who should be actually preparing the RFQ so that this is held up now
It's a month.
a
now.
month.
Yep.
That no RFQ
Right.
has been prepared, and ultimately
so
who's
now
going to
we're-
have to do the final sign off. It's ridiculous that it's
Yep.
been held up, because I don't know if we can actually have a meeting tomorrow or just
A walkthrough.
the walkthrough, because there's really nothing for Randy to update us on tomorrow besides the walkthrough. So that's the update on the pre-referendum committee.
Thank you. Mr. Ryder?
I just had one more note. I also wanted to mention that tomorrow at JFK, we're going to be honoring our 8th graders that will be entering the National Junior Honor Society with their induction ceremony. That'll be taking place at 6:30. So my hope is to go to Prudence Crandall for the first hour, at least do the walkthrough, and then head over to JFK to honor our 8th graders. My daughter was a member of the National Junior Honor Society, so it's I can't wait to meet the next group going in. So I just want to mention that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Okay. Approval of minutes. I need a motion to approve the regular Board of Ed meeting minutes of March 11th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Kober, second by Ms. LeBlanc. Any discussion? Okay, show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against. Mr. Kober, we do not have approval of council payroll tonight, correct?
Correct. No items.
Thank you. Mr. Ryder, do we have correspondence or board communications?
Nope, just wanted to mention Kites Heritage Fair, which Dr. Callan already covered. So once again, that's this Saturday, the 28th at JFK from 11 to 2:30.
And that's in the...
So it's going to be taking
hub, or-
place in the public areas, the auditorium and gym. So use the auditorium entrance, which you would for any public event at JFK. Turn into the first parking lot. If you're heading towards JFK, down Raffia, where JFK would be on your left, go into that first parking lot, use that main auditorium/gym entrance. And the programming alternates between the gym and auditorium, which are right across the hall from each other.
Thank you. Okay, so I need a motion to go into executive session related to the superintendent's evaluation, and there'll be no voting in there, and there'll be no voting afterwards. We'll just finish the meeting at that point.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. LeBlanc, second by Mr. Kober. Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against. Thank you, and have a good night.